my God, in my company, we're dealing with, I mean, millions of women a month worldwide, but tens of thousands in terms of real coaching. And one of the biggest problems is people falling for people really quickly.
Yes.
Falling in love too fast, where it's because they went on a couple of great dates with a guy and they can look at the date and go, he was amazing. And you should have seen what he did and how he was on the date and all of that. And the thing I have to always break down is that may not have been about you.
Mm-hmm.
It is about something he wanted you to feel
mm-hmm.
by the end of the date.
Mm-hmm.
And not that, you know, I kind of loathe this culture we have right now where everyone's a narcissist.
Yes,
like
yes,
we're so quick to like label.
Yeah.
He's a narcissist. She's a narcissist. I'm like, not everyone, like we all have a narcissistic streak.
Absolutely.
And we all exhibit narcissistic behaviors at time. That doesn't mean we're a diagnosable narcissist.
Completely.
But a narcissistic streak we all have early in dating and to differing degrees is the desire to impress rather than connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go on a date with someone and, you know, at the height of it, if someone's really on the extreme end, they will give the greatest date of someone's life.
Yeah.
And that person goes away and they're like, this guy is amazing, or this person. And they may have put on an amazing date, but you know nothing yet.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool about your wife, you know, going through that process with you is, you know, I can imagine for her, it's almost like, well, I want to see how you are in week 4.
Yeah.
Or I want to see how you are in month 3.
Yeah.
And until you've been there, you really don't know how great of a partner somebody is going to be.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by, you know, when you ask me about what I've really learned about love and I talked about valuing the wrong things, that's one of the big ways that it shows up. If you are getting crazy nervous on a date, you're already, that's already a reflection of the fact that you've valued the wrong things, because you're valuing this person's looks or their status or what you perceive them to be. But you're not valuing them in a relationship or in relation to you, which is defined by how much they give, how they connect with you, how they relate to you, how they see you.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is you're at a 0.
Yeah.
So how can you be nervous if you're valuing the right things? You can only be nervous if you're valuing the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
If that, to me, is the key to eliminating early nerves in early dating. Is that there is, I almost feel a little fatalistic about it, which is funny coming from someone who gives advice in this area for a living, because, you know, I do believe that we can influence situations with what we do, but we do have to have a bit of a dose of fatalism that the thing that didn't pan out wasn't the thing.
Mm-hmm.
The person who's still great in week 8 is showing you the right things. But if they suddenly ghost you in week 9, then it doesn't mean they would have been great in week 16.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, but they were the one. And I don't know what, I need closure. You have closure.
Mm-hmm.
That action was closure. What they showed you is they had 8 good weeks in them.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. It's the same as you'd say in sport. Like if you, I was just thinking about sport while you were saying that. It's the idea of like a player may have 1 good season in him or her.
Mm-hmm.
And then that player may have had 10 good seasons in him or her. And sometimes we have these players where we're like, oh, she's going to be the next, or he's going to be the next. And then all of a sudden, they don't give you that season. And in sports, we get closure by just going, all right, they had potential, but they didn't make it. But you're right, in love and life, it's a lot hard to have that mentality of like, they gave me 8 good weeks, but they didn't make it.
Well, and you sit there and you obsess over someone who just left you, you obsess over what they could have been.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what
they
it is.
Could have, this was so promising. They were everything that I was looking for. This could have been. And anytime someone breaks up with us, the heartbreak is the loss of the life we thought we were going to have with someone. This is what it could have been. This is what it should have been.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is, it would have been if it should have been and could have been.
Yeah.
Then it would have been. You're literally, you're grieving over something that was not, by definition, it wasn't meant to happen because it didn't happen.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
it didn't happen. So this idea that it was supposed to or it should have is myth. It's a fantasy. It's science fiction.
Yeah. But I feel like in relationships, we have this fantasy mind that's already written the script and the book and the trilogy before the second date is over. And so it's almost like relationship seems to be like the one area of our life where we write decades into the future and we can't help ourselves because we almost think that and it's almost like you're living, what you're saying is you're living off the fantasy, not even of the reality that's right in front of you. And so even when you're on a date with them, you're not even there because you're in your fantasy land of what you think it is.
And that's where in so many ways, everything that you are, your expertise in mindfulness and everything you've learned there is so important in dating. Because in dating, you have to be on the date you're on. Mindful dating is be on the date you're on. Don't be on date 2, but really you're not. You're on date 32. Your mind has to be on date 2 with your body.
Yes.
And when people don't do that, that's where they start constructing a fantasy of where this relationship is going. A fantasy of who this person is. They know 5% of someone and they've built the other 95% out of extrapolation.
Yeah.
Oh, he was really sweet in that moment. I bet he's good with kids. I bet he's this. I bet he's that. I bet he's, I bet he's an amazing family man. I bet, and we've all had the experience of meeting someone who is incredibly charming, fun to be around. You went away from, like, as men, we sometimes go out and we meet another man and it's like we've been on a date with that man and you come home and you go, he was so great. I was like, I loved him to bits. And he really charmed you. And then 6 months later, that person has really lost their shine because they're flaky. You realize they don't actually show up when you need them to. You realize that they kind of, it's that in The Talented Mr. Ripley, there's that great line.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Movie. There's a great line where Matt Damon is like, he's become the new chosen best friend of Jude Law's character. Jude Law's character's name's Dickie, and Matt Damon is feeling suddenly shut out, like out of nowhere. He feels shut out when 5 minutes ago he was like, this guy's my best friend and he loves me and he says to Matt Damon's girlfriend at the time, he's expressing how he feels that he's not even expressing. She sees the look on his face that he's sad that he no longer has this like friendship that feels real to him. And she says, the thing about Dickie is when he puts his attention on you, it's like the sun is shining on you. And then the attention moves on and it's very cold. Yeah. And that's the experience of a lot of those people. But when you're taking the 5% of the sun shining on you and you use it to build the 95% that you cannot possibly know, you can't know who this person is when your brother gets sick and you need to travel to the hospital to be with that person and you need support in that moment. You can't know how that person is when you're having an anxious moment and you need someone to show love and compassion towards you and this anxiety that you can't seem to control, and what you really need is a loving teammate to be there with you and not to judge you. You can't know what this person is like in year 3 of a relationship when you need to make a shift in your sex life because it feels like that part has become staid, but you need to work together to figure out. You don't know what that person is like in those stages. So thinking that you have all the answers because you've been on even 10 or 15 dates with this person and had a wonderful time is a fallacy, a fantasy.